The silence in the room was deafening. I sat on the edge of our bed, my phone clutched tightly in my hand, the message from my sister burning into my mind. How could this happen? My boyfriend of nearly 5 years, the man I had grown to trust with every fiber of my being, had sent an explicit photo to my sister. Was it a drunken mistake, as he claimed, or was there something deeper lurking beneath the surface? I didn't know, but what I did know was that my life had just been flipped upside down. It all began on a Friday night. The plan was simple. Ethan, my boyfriend, would meet up with his friends for a quick drink before we joined them later at a bar downtown. It wasn't unusual for him to unwind with his buddies, and I trusted him completely. When he stumbled through the door hours later, his cheeks flushed with the telltale signs of too many drinks, I helped him to the bathroom so he could shower. He was slurring his words, but seemed cheerful, even playful. I didn't think much of it. We headed out together later that night and had a great time, or so I thought. The next morning, my phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand. It was my sister, Claire. Her voice on the other end of the line was laced with confusion and discomfort. She told me that Ethan had sent her a photo, a very explicit photo. My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Lila, it came from his number. There's no mistake," she replied. As soon as I hung up, I confronted Ethan. He sat on the couch, bleary-eyed and hungover, as I demanded an explanation. His face contorted in confusion before shifting to horror. "I don't remember doing that," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I must have been blackout drunk. I don't know what to say." Claire was understandably furious. She had always been protective of me, and this incident was an unthinkable betrayal in her eyes. "How can you even consider staying with him after this?" she asked during a heated phone call. I didn't have an answer. I was torn between anger, heartbreak, and a desperate need to understand what had happened. Ethan's apologies were constant. He claimed he had no intention of sending the photo and suggested it might have been a drunken misdial. But how could I believe that? Days turned into weeks, and the tension in our apartment was unbearable. I started noticing things I hadn't before, the way Ethan's phone was always face down, how he seemed overly eager to make amends, yet avoided any meaningful conversation about what happened. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. While Ethan was asleep, I unlocked his phone. My heart raced as I scrolled through his messages. Most were innocuous, but then I found a string of texts to Claire. The messages were flirty, inappropriate. My stomach churned as I realized this wasn't just a one-time mistake. The next day, I confronted him again. This time, he didn't deny it. "I was stupid," he admitted, tears streaming down his face. "I was drunk and I made a terrible mistake, but it didn't mean anything." "Didn't mean anything?" I snapped. "You crossed a line, Ethan. You didn't just hurt me. You've ruined my relationship with my sister." I started therapy to help me process everything. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, encouraged me to focus on what I wanted and needed, rather than what Ethan or anyone else expected. "Do you feel safe with him?" she asked during one session. The question lingered in my mind for days. Did I? Could I? Meanwhile, Ethan also sought help. He started attending AA meetings and seeing a counselor. He insisted he wanted to change, to earn back my trust. Part of me wanted to believe him, but the damage was done. Months passed. Claire and I slowly began to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy. There were awkward silences, lingering resentment, but also a mutual understanding that we both needed each other. As for Ethan and me, we decided to take a break. I moved out of our apartment and into a small place of my own. It was terrifying and liberating all at once. Ethan continued his recovery journey, and while I was proud of his progress, I realized I couldn't base my happiness on his potential. A year later, I'm in a better place. Claire and I are closer than ever, and I've even started dating again. Ethan and I occasionally talk, but we've both accepted that our relationship was a chapter that needed to end. Looking back, I've learned that trust, once broken, is incredibly hard to repair. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. Life goes on, and so do I.